I'd like to now welcome Mr. Thomas Kuruvilla. He is the Managing Director of R30 Little, and he will be talking about the future of Metaverse and how it is going to impact the economies in the future. So with that, I give it to Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My privilege to be addressing all of you. Richa is a very close friend for the last 5 years. So thank you very much for inviting me for this event. And I just realized that Mr. Khalifa was my client. You may not know that he is holding many other different positions. And in many positions, I think we have done around 3 to 4 projects for Mr. Khalifa. So familiar faces in the room. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Can I say one thing?
Please, yes.
I actually want to say one thing and thank Mr. Khalifa Al-Jazairi for taking the last minute request to making it to the event as the guest of honor. So please, a big round of applause for him. Thank you so much. Thank you, and we look forward to all the support that we can from the technology side can offer to the government, and whatever the government needs help with, we're all together, bringing the people together, and really honored for you to come to the stage and tell us what you have in mind for the buy-in for us. Thank you. Thank you. With that, Thomas, it's all yours.
Thank you, Richa. Again, I was very surprised when you asked people to raise their hands to say that you're not happy with the regulation. I've not heard that in any other country when I do such projects. So again, it shows how important change is to you. Yeah. I'll try to go through a few slides very quickly so that we can have some time for Q&A. The summary I wanted to present is the metaverse is a real opportunity. Sorry, the slides. I don't see slideshow on the screen here, yeah? Before that, let me just tell something. I don't know, Richa will hopefully allow me to say that. It's not a slideshow here, but it's fine. Richa, I'm going to make a statement on this slide. Initially, it was join or die. No, previous slide. Okay. It was join or die, and 3:30 a.m., she told me, Thomas, you cannot put die. It is very impolite. So at 3:30 today morning, I was in Portugal. I landed at 2 a.m. today morning. And at 3:30, I get a message, Thomas, you cannot put die. And I changed it to be left out. But I want all of you to know that it was join or die. And I really mean it. I'm sorry, Richa. I really believe it is a 13 trillion opportunity. And it is better to join to remain relevant, and I have a view that it will become mandatory. I believe so. People may not agree to that, but I think it is going to become mandatory. Few key messages. I do believe that 15 to 20% of the economy in the foreseeable future may be in the metaverse. So you better plan to be participating in the metaverse or you will be out of business. If somebody made the same statement about internet, when internet started, I don't think many people would have believed it, right? If somebody says that if you don't participate in the internet, you will be out of business. And when internet started, I don't think anybody would have agreed to that statement. I think it is exactly the same that is happening on metaverse. If many people may think it is a fad, it is not true, it is not going to happen, it is just virtual stuff, I don't agree with it at all. It is really going to stay. You better participate with it. Otherwise, it will impact your business very seriously. All the ingredients of the metaverse is maturing: technology, user acceptance, regulation, and security. It is all maturing. So the issues that we felt is there with metaverse is going away. Another very interesting input, I will show you a slide on this later. The youth spends more time with their digital persona than a physical persona. I don't know whether you will believe it, this is actual data. If you take the time spent by an individual, they spend more time with their avatars and digital persona more than the physical persona. Today, it's actually going on now, and it is expected to increase, right? Anytime there is a disruptive intervention, it goes through a very high spike and it crashes. Same thing happened with NFT. Market crashed recently, but what happens after a crash is there will be real opportunity. So we have reached the stage of the crash happened. In the previous .com era, the crash happened after 5 to 6 years of pickup. In this case, the crash happened much faster and the opportunity is already coming to us, right? In Dubai, Mr. Khalifa is here. Regulation is in place. The digital twin is being announced. Transactions have been initiated, and I think the metaverse will be made mandatory very quickly, maybe in a few years' time. Yeah. A quote by Victor Hugo: "There is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come." And by idea, I mean the metaverse. Yeah. This is what I talked to you about. This is the actual data across multiple geographies, multiple age categories. You may be surprised to see 32 hours in the middle. That is because some of them are double counted. But this is actual data, and you can see the digital persona is 13 hours, while the physical persona is 12 hours, and this is expected to grow by 20 minutes in the next coming year, right? I don't want to talk about the evolution from Web 1 to Web 3, but what is extremely important is that Web 2 had a centralized intermediary between the service provider and the end user. So the fundamental difference between Web 2.0 and Web 3.0, it is that you are directly interacting with the end user. It is completely decentralized and it is token based. Very simple. It sounds very simple, but that has a very huge impact when you decentralize and you tokenize. Because when you decentralize, the 20 to 30% of the cost that goes to the people in between is eliminated. The financial cost of financial transactions, the cost of 5 to 6% gets eliminated. So from a simple cost perspective, around 20 to 25% of the cost gets eliminated when you are decentralizing and when it is based on a token. That is the fundamental difference between Web 2.0 and Web 3.0. Yeah. Web 3.0 has multiple components. I don't want to get into the details. I do have a lot of material on this, but I can explain to you if anybody has any specific doubts on this, right? What is the benefit of decentralization? Additional control of the data by the user. Then you are much more comfortable to release the data because you're in control of it. The individual as a creator grows significantly. Today what happens is the creator gets only 50 to 60% of the value. I don't know whether you're aware of it. A creator doesn't get more than 50 to 60% of the value. Around 40 to 50% of the value is distributed amongst other intermediaries, which is not going to be the case with the metaverse or the Web 3.0, which means more and more creators will come into the play and we will get much more services, right? They can monetize directly with their fans, better control by the creator, and there is a flexible and innovation in the payment mechanisms, right? In summary, metaverse is immersive. It is not just an extension of, you will not be able to differentiate between the physical world and the virtual world. That is what is going to happen very soon, very quickly, right? People will be working together, social, and it is again a creator-based economy. Let me just play a video, maybe for a minute or so, and then I'll come back to the slide. Can somebody click on that blue video clip on top?
So, we're gonna have an astrophysicist in the family.
Actually, I have to write this paper. Will you help me?
Let's take a closer look. What part of the solar system are we talking about?
Saturn.
If you were taking astrophysics, you could study in the metaverse.
Did you know the rings are made up of billions of icy particles?
Really?
Look at this.
You ready to do that paper now, right?
Yeah.
In the metaverse, you'll be able to teleport not just to any place, but any time as well. Ancient Rome. Imagine standing on the streets, hearing the sounds, visiting the markets, to get a sense of the rhythm of life over 2,000 years ago. Imagine learning how the forum was built by actually seeing the forum get built right in front of you.
Another 1 minute.
While I miss seeing the people I work with, I think remote work is here to stay for a lot of people. So we're going to need better tools to work together. Let's take a look at what working in the metaverse will be like. Imagine if you could be at the office without the commute. You would still have that sense of presence, shared physical space. There's There's chance interactions that make your day all accessible from anywhere. Now imagine that you have your perfect work setup and you can actually do more than you could in your regular work setup. And on top of all that, you can keep wearing your favorite sweatpants.
Looking good. Let's get together real quick for a debrief.
I'm free now. Let's jump in.
Hi.
Hey.
So what do we think?
I think it's ready.
Great.
I'll prep it for the presentation.
All right. Good luck.
Imagine a space where you can tune out distractions and focus on the task at hand. And when you're ready to share what you've been working on, you can present it as if you're right there with the team.
Wait, where's Mark?
I think he's in the middle of something.
You can already see some of these elements in Horizon Workrooms, which we launched a couple of months ago. Later this year, we plan to introduce a room customization, so you can put your own logos and posters in your workrooms. We're also introducing a new office space in Horizon Home, our Facebook account.
For surgery, that's something that seems really, really fascinating. For example, I believe it's the University of Connecticut. So in their medical center, they've been training orthopedic surgery residents in using these Oculus Quest devices. And when they're performing some surgery,
This is a
they
real
can
operation
project
conducted
essentially
over the metaverse. Real operation.
the patient's bones, their anatomy, and they can practice before they actually see the patient, right? To give another example, I think at the Johns Hopkins neurosurgeons, so they actually performed their first ever live actual surgery on a patient using an augmented reality.
So I just wanted to show just a few video clips to show that reality and virtual reality is actually combined together. It is not completely separate, right? No. One very important input is that for the internet, when it started, it was not interoperable. Unfortunately, in the metaverse also, as of today, it is not interoperable, which is going to be very bad. And I'm almost 100% convinced that it will become interoperable in the near future. The worst case situation is that you will have a China-led metaverse and the rest of the world led metaverse. I'm sorry, I'm making some very controversial statements, but if it doesn't get completely 100% combined into one metaverse, there can be only two metaverses. One will be controlled by China and it will be centralized. It will not be decentralized unless there's a regime change in China. And you will have a decentralized metaverse controlled by the rest of the world. That is my personal view. There's no evidence for that. It is just based on what I see, what is happening in the world today between China and the rest of the world. How big the metaverse will be? 800 billion by 2024, 8 to 13 trillion by 2030. And you can see with the various investments, the number of jobs and the percentage of US tech companies that will be in the metaverse by 2025, 74%. I personally believe that these numbers are underestimated. It is not overestimated. That's my personal view, and I can empirically prove it to you that these numbers are underestimated if you take a clue from the previous e-commerce regime, right? And as I mentioned earlier, similar to today, there may be a possibility that's a split between the US international and the China firewall-based metaverse. Okay, that is my personal opinion. Yeah. I tried doing a research on use cases. There is used case in every single sector today. So it is not an imagination that the metaverse is happening. It is happening in only selected sectors. It is happening in every single sector. And I have given you some examples for every single sector that key players in the metaverse. Most of them have used training, significant cost saving on training. For example, to train a pilot, it may cost $10 to $15 million to train a pilot today. But if you implement a metaverse, you can reduce it to $2 to $3 million, right? So I can give you many examples. I don't want to go through the details. I'll be happy to share all these slides. Every place there is at least a 50 to 60% cost reduction by using Metaverse. It's unbelievable numbers, but I can prove it in any industry that you want, right? And majority of them is related to training, digital twinning, virtual factory experiences, maintenance, cost reduction, capital expenditure rationalization, right? And I have also given you some examples. I'll run through some slides very quickly. I will not spend time on this. What the slide is saying is about every sector, there is a consumer metaverse, there is an enterprise metaverse, and there is an industrial metaverse. So the consumers are end customers. It is for the company or it is for the whole industry, right? For example, what is the biggest problem in the flight today? You feel very, very congested. Even if you sit in a business class or an economy, you feel very congested. This is already out in the market today. Japan Airlines is already releasing this. So imagine you have this in your flight, you will not have the congested feeling at all in the airlines. And that will have a significant boost to the airlines industry. Again, tourism. 14% increase in bookings when you have a 3D tours, for example. Emergency evacuation drills with Japan Airlines, half the cost. Amsterdam Airport has a 100% digital twin today. 100% digital twin in which they are simulating operational failures and addressing the issues before the failure happens. Swiss utility company, exact CapEx decisions. They decide on how do they make OpEx and CapEx investments based on a simulation on the metaverse. I have so many examples, I'll skip through all of them. Healthcare, digital patient model. Virtual reality to work on actual patients. Heart surgery training on the metaverse. These are all real cases. I'm not showing any pictures or videos. These are actual cases that is implemented successfully today with 50 to 60% cost reduction in every single case, right? Digital twin on building vaccine, reduce the cost by 50%. In the metaverse, they are selling bags at more price than the retail value. But that is not the most important point. When you release goods in the metaverse, you can see people buying or not buying, how much they are willing to pay. So then you can release the bags that will 100% sell. You don't have to experiment with it. So for almost zero cost, you can put your goods in the metaverse, try to price it, see how people are buying it, and then you release those items in the real world. So again, significant cost reduction to test products with customers whether they are going to buy it, right? Again, similarly, Coca-Cola NFT sold for $575,000. Nike shoes sold for $80,000. Unbelievable numbers. These are actual transactions happening on the metaverse today. FMCG companies, they are releasing limited edition flavors on the metaverse, right? Can you imagine a conference like this in which you have to display aircrafts or new cars, BMW, Rolls-Royce, they have to bring the physical cars to show you and display and conduct that in a conference, done over the metaverse. The cost is 100th. If it costs 10 million, at 100 the cost, you can run such an event, inviting people to visit and see your own products. Imagine the savings that is happening, right? I can go on and on, right? Digital twin for Rolls-Royce. Financial services. BMW working on a digital concerts. Games. Okay? So the point I was trying to make by showing these slides is that every single sector, there are 3 to 4 very successful metaverse replications with 40 to 50% savings, right? Now, coming to Dubai. The impact of metaverse is already in Dubai. I believe, I don't have any evidence, I believe that in 10 years' time, it will be mandatory to do the planning in the metaverse. That's my personal belief. There's no evidence for that. Earlier, very good. Thank you very much, right? For example, today when you want to buy a unit, they show you on a 2D diagram. I am expecting that the metaverse will be made mandatory. You will have to physically show your villa or the flat that you're going to buy on the metaverse. You will be able to sign I don't have evidence for that. You may, Mr. Khalifa, you can say yes or no. I think it will be made mandatory that you will sign the contract to buy a constructed villa on the metaverse. What they show you on the metaverse has to be legally binding. You should be able to sue MR if what they show you on the metaverse and the reality is not the same. I am quite confident that these things are going to happen much faster than what we predict today. And can you imagine what it really means? You are not just seeing a visual 2D diagram. You are going to stand on the 33rd floor or the 100th floor, Burj Khalifa. You can see whatever you are supposed to see, and when you buy it, they have to show you that. Today, you cannot do anything. They are going to tell you this is the building, and you can imagine at the 100th floor what you will see. And if you don't see that, you still have to buy it. But in the metaverse, you better show me now. Oh, I can see this. Yes, it is. You showed me in the metaverse. When I buy it, hello, I don't see it. I'm not paying you money, right? Those things cannot happen anymore. I'm 100% confident of that, right? I hope you can understand the usefulness of metaverse. It is not some fictitious stuff going on, right? 4 billion addition to Dubai economy, 42,000 virtual jobs. First in the world to have a regulator creating a virtual city. As I said, future contracts I expect to be signed in the metaverse very quickly. That's my personal view. I'm not a technology person. I'll keep it short, but just one very quick inputs. The technologies have well advanced to enable metaverse. There's no doubt in my mind. It is non-fungible tokens, digital currencies, and augmented reality and virtual reality. Areas to improve. Latency needs to improve. Mr. Khalifa talked about regulation. I sincerely believe there are two fundamental changes that is required in regulation in the country. First of all, the telecoms cost, the lease line cost is one of the highest in the world in Dubai. I have, right? As a barrier, right? And I have done many projects for people to put data warehousing, cloud computing, metaverse databases and all of that, and they have to connect it to a lease line, and the lease line cost is prohibitively high. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to say that standing in Dubai, I had to recommend to my clients to move their cloud storage to Bahrain or Qatar or Saudi Arabia because the cost in UAE is very high. I did mention at the highest level in UAE saying that I am recommending to my clients that you cannot put your data warehouse in Dubai because the lease line cost is 5 to 10 times, right? I'm sorry to say that, but I took the permission, and I see Mr. Khalifa very open to getting such input, so I'm taking the advantage of saying that, yeah. The second input is it is something to do with the regulation on telecom infrastructure. I will take 1 minute to explain this because this is extremely critical. Today, if you look at the regulation on telecom, the investments are happening on the infrastructure side. The benefits are on companies like Facebook. You see, so the regulation is not appropriate in my view. Unless you have a regulation by which the service providers like Facebook are forced to pay money to the infrastructure provider, the infrastructure provider will not have money to invest in 5G. And the regulation doesn't allow that today. And I sincerely believe that the 5G access has to double or triple for the metaverse to work, and the regulation is not supporting that because they will not get a return on investment for building a 5G network. It's a very significant problem that you will have. And the reliability is also linked to the telecom investments, right? So 2 fundamental changes in the regulation is required to ensure that our dreams about metaverse will happen in Dubai. Regulation, content moderation, free speech, privacy, laws around cryptocurrencies, all of that has to be updated because today the regulation is not in place to protect users that is going into the metaverse. That regulation needs to be updated also in my view, right? Few more points on regulation. A service provider should not be allowed to store user data for more than a very short period, only to provide the service in the metaverse. Beyond that, you should not be allowed to store it. It should not be allowed. Otherwise, users will not feel comfortable, right? We have to inform people what is being tracked. Publicly, you need to tell them, Thomas, I'm tracking this for you. I'm collecting the data before I provide you metaverse services, right? We should also be very transparent or restrictive on the algorithms that you are using to track face, your health, your blood pressure and all of that, right? Because you're really understanding me as a person because of metaverse, all my data, my health conditions, everything is being very transparent. You need to be quite careful on what is allowed and what is not allowed, yeah? I already talked about blockchain, but what is very important is what I mentioned on the right-hand side as advantages. There are no intermediaries, marginal transaction cost, real-time information, and built-in incentive for network support. So blockchain is, as a concept, has significant advantages to reduce the cost and bring the benefits instantaneously to the consumers who using Metaverse, right? NFT, it's a very simple concept, but I just wanted to give you one input on the advantage of NFT. There is no unique digital token other than NFTs. So far, either you will have physical, which will be unique, or you will have digital, which is not unique. And that is getting corrected by NFT, right? And that is a significant advantage of NFT. People always see that the crash is very bad, but every time a crash is required for the market to stabilize, and the crash has already happened, and it is going to stabilize in my view. I have given many examples on NFT transactions, and some of them is actually unimaginable, but I will not spend time on this. I will share these slides. NFTs on every single transaction is possible, and it creates a lot of efficiency. Just to give you an example, you can trade during gaming, collectible piece of music, your degree certificates, real world assets can be tagged, lot of benefits because of NFTs, yeah? Another very important aspect is, I don't know whether you see a pattern in this slide, countries with high level of adoption are countries with low income. It's a very important observation because the cost reduction is proven by this. Because people who have lower income, who were not coming to the metaverse or equivalent because the intermediaries are keeping 30 to 40% of the price. So the poor people are not able to transact on it because the cost of the transaction goes high. But the moment NFTs have come up, look at who is on the top. The United States, UK, Japan, all the costly countries are on the bottom. The countries with lower income is on the top. It shows that efficiency is already concluded. Otherwise, you will never get such a chart, right? Let me skip the slides. Many companies are already in the metaverse. Strategy. You need to create a holistic strategy. Every company, in my view, you have to assume that you don't have any company today. If you're talking about, let us say, a construction company, MR, you cannot build on the current MR strategy. I think it will be a completely wrong strategy. You have to imagine that MR is non-existent today. How will I build MR as a company considering the metaverse and the technology and the user interface and the regulation and the security, what is available? If I mix the physical world and the virtual world, how will MR as a company be developed from scratch? And then you compare it with what you have today, and then you have to adapt the strategy for MR. I am using that as an example. Otherwise, you will always come up with an incremental strategy, and you will not capture 90% of the value if you consider an incremental strategy. You have to consider a white sheet of paper, develop the new strategy, and then compare it with what is happening today, right? You need to continuously educate yourself on the metaverse because it is evolving, it is very important. You need to find the right people, and technology, again, you need to continuously update your use cases because the use cases are very different from every month. Because of the evolution of technology, the use cases keeps changing, and you need to continuously look at your use cases before deciding on your strategy. So at the end of it, you need to be very clear on your strategy. You need to be very clear on where you get the competencies. You need to keep updating your use cases along with your clients, considering the evolution of technology and regulation and security, right? Last input, Metaverse is allowing a level playing field for large players and small players. It was already the case when we had internet, right? It was already the case. But the level playing field availability to small players or creators, we don't have something called creators in the Web 2.0. But in Web 3.0, you start having the creators, and the smallest player has the highest advantage in Metaverse. There is going to be a spike in talent demand. And that is going to be tricky because you don't have many people on that. So that is going to be a fight for talent, and it is better to train people and lock them in, give them shares in your company so that they don't move to other organizations, right? That is where this is the first slide that I presented, which is my summary slides. I'm just showing it again, and that's what I have to say. Can I take one or two questions or over time?
We're way over time.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So thank you so much. We're going to have some networking breaks, and I'm sure we'll be able to continue.
I want to really say thank you, Thomas, for such an amazing explanatory presentation. It's beyond, I mean, this is something everybody was clicking. I could see that every slide was like a story. So thank you so much, Thomas. With that, I think Mr. Khalifa has a question.
Honestly, it's not a question because there's no time for questions. I just as a highlight, you've seen the UAE in the fourth on that graph, but that's an anomaly because we are an early adopters, not because of the income issue. Just I wanted to highlight that. And you are giving us a lot of great use cases, which we've seen. I just wanted to let you know that the Ministry of Economy actually was the first economic summit on Earth that was hosted on the Metaverse on the 28th of March. The one that got, and we also had the first economic press conference where a real minister have attended with an avatar on the metaverse. We've done that also on that day, and Crypto.com CEO was along as well. So just to let you know that we are early adopters. That's why we are on the fourth on the list. Thank you.
I presented only 30 slides, but the presentation has 150 slides. I'm happy to share all of those slides.
Okay.
Yeah, I will share it. If you're not able to contact me, connect me on LinkedIn. Thomas Kuruvilla, Arthur D. Little, 150 slides. I will share all the data with whoever is.